Hi Barbie, welcome to my Mojo Dojo Casa house. Has literally every other YouTuber done that bit already? We finally have the first live action Barbie movie. Well, kinda. Anyway, I just saw it the other day, and as a doll collector, I have some opinions. What a shocker. So fill your glass with the invisible beverage of your choice, and let's talk about the Barbie movie. So I'm going to be talking about major plot points in this video, so if you haven't seen the Barbie movie yet, now's the time to click off and go watch one of my other videos, because if you're here just to find out whether or not to see the movie, go see it. If you're interested enough to click on this video, you're going to enjoy it, I promise. The plot is interesting, the costuming and cinematography are gorgeous, and the acting is mostly good. It's just an overall really great movie. It's the movie of the year. Go see the Barbie movie. So this is your final warning for spoilers, and if you need another video to watch, why don't you hop back to my previous video and watch my entire Barbie collection, because it was so much fun to show it off. So I'm going to start off by saying that I'm actually not a big movie person. I generally don't watch a ton of new movies. If I'm going to watch a movie, it's going to be something from the 90s that's like super campy and funny that I've seen like 1,000 times. So we're talking movies like Clueless, The Addams Family, Drop Dead Gorgeous. Like, I think the Brady Bunch movie is a masterpiece. So now you know where I'm coming from. So I went in without any expectations with this movie because it had been hyped up so much that I was worried I was going to get disappointed if I was just anticipating this being the best movie of all time. So I really kind of just reserved any anticipation I had for it, and I just went in it with like a completely neutral attitude, saying like, okay, I might love this, I might hate this. So I really tried not to have too many expectations going in, which I think ultimately ended up being a good thing, because one of the most common things I hear from people is that they were so surprised about the plot of this movie. So anyway, I'm not going to go through this movie scene by scene because I'm assuming you've seen it already anyway if you're watching this video. So I just wanted to talk about some of my favorite moments, some of the criticisms I had, and just sort of like my overall takeaway feeling from this movie. Real quick, if you're enjoying this video so far, I would love it if you would hit the like button and leave a comment. It really helps my videos reach more people, and I would really appreciate it. Also, be sure that you're subscribed because I make doll videos every week. So the opening scene was really great, and we've all seen it before because it was in the trailer, but it was that reference to 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I just thought it was shot really well, and it was a great way to start the movie off. And it really kind of showed how Barbie had really taken over the toy market in the 1960s. One thing I will say is I was a little bit disappointed that there wasn't even like one little boy in that opening scene. And again, I understand that it's not super relevant to the plot, but it always does just break my heart a little bit to be invisible in the doll community. And I just think about all the little boys that love Barbie and just still to this day are feeling unseen. So that is one of my biggest criticisms right off the bat. And again, I know it's a selfish opinion, but it's just a really strong opinion I hold, and it's that we need to be encouraging young boys to play with dolls. It's a good thing for them. And many of us, grew up loving dolls and felt shamed for it. So I kind of hate that that was, again, something that came up for me watching this movie. But I got over it because, I'm used to it at this point. But I still really love the opening scene to the movie. So again, I understand that this movie is feminist, if nothing else. And I get that it dilutes the point to bring in the concept that boys also like dolls. Because again, that's another political issue and a whole other kettle of fish to tackle. So I understand that that wasn't part of this movie, and the main part of this movie was to explore how Barbie has basically not only influenced but reflected back society's expectations of young girls and women. So yeah, I do give the movie a pass on that because I do think that there is a bigger, more important story to be told. But yeah, selfishly, I feel like there was a little juice there. They could have stuck a little boy in there somewhere and not had to talk about it. It could have just existed. So yeah, that's probably, I would say, my biggest criticism of the movie. And again, for selfish reasons. I do think it's kind of funny that after all this time, we finally get a Barbie movie and it's PG-13, so like it's not even for children. But I do understand that like a 6-year-old watching this movie would be like, what the hell am I watching right now? I love that they set these characters up as dolls because they have their own universe set separately from the human universe. So it really sets up a great way for us to talk about the doll world versus the human world. And we're not just like having Barbie pretending she's an actual person yet. But I thought that was a really great way to set up opportunities for, being self-referential and breaking the fourth wall. And again, the movie is very visually beautiful. I mean, we've got tons of shades of pink, and from what I understand, they didn't use much CGI at all, which was really great. It gave the movie a really tactile feel, which I think is really important when it comes to dolls. So yeah, I think the cinematography was pretty much perfect. I do hope we get some more dolls for the movie because I love so many of the fashions that we saw in this movie because there were a ton of new ones. And I actually thought they did a really great job of mixing the new fashions, like the new design concepts with old ones. I thought it was a really great mix. So if you are a Barbie fan and are very aware of the history of Barbie, you could really appreciate that they did all their research and incorporated that stuff while also introducing new concepts for us to possibly look forward to new dolls and fashion packs in the future. But I will say those Western outfits were my absolute favorite. And yeah, there were a lot of references to actual real world Barbie dolls in the movie, which I thought was really great. And, you know, they touched on a lot of the controversial ones too, like Earring Magic Ken and Growing Up Skipper, Pregnant Midge, all of that stuff. So, you know, I really thought that was fun. That really helps like doll collectors understand that this movie was made for them. It wasn't just something that they would try to like make a quick buck on. I think they really did a good job of trying to incorporate all of the like past lore and interesting characters that we've had from over the years. And it's really interesting that Mattel was involved in this movie and endorsed all of this stuff. And while they didn't get completely roasted, there were some things in this movie that surprised me, which we'll get into later, but I thought it was like very bold of Mattel to leave some of the things in the movie that they did. I think they're kind of loosening up there. I feel like they're not as like, I mean, they're obviously protective of the Barbie brand, but I feel like they're happy to laugh at themselves too. And they understand, especially like the millennial sense of humor. Like we just, you know, there's a certain type of humor that millennials appreciate, like, you know, irony and, you know, being able to laugh at yourself and be self-deprecating. So I really feel like Mattel understood that as far as this movie goes. I thought that they did an overall really great job for the casting of this movie, and Margot Robbie is obviously being praised for her role as Barbie, which of course she should be. She did a brilliant job in it, and people love her, and I think, you know, she was a really great choice for Barbie. Though I will say I kind of would like to have seen what Reese Witherspoon would have done with this role. I don't know if like it's the fact that we watched Legally Blonde the other day and that was like fresh on my mind, but all I could keep thinking like as like in the beginning of the movie is like, how would Reese Witherspoon have played this character? Because I actually thought she would have been really great for that role as well. But that's not to take away from Margot Robbie's, you know, performance as Barbie. But I just kept thinking like, you know, Elle Woods, like what would Reese Witherspoon have done? But yeah, I've seen Legally Blonde like 1,000 times. So like, yeah, if you want to know the types of movies I like, it's stuff like that. I feel like the reviews for Ryan Gosling's role in the movie playing Ken were really mixed. Some people really loved him and thought he was hilarious, and others were like, oh, I didn't really like that. And I think a lot of the negative criticism of his role as Ken probably was rooted in the fact that his character was really two-dimensional, and, you know, he was the antagonist for most of the movie. And I think a lot of people just really didn't like seeing Ken in that light. I think they didn't want to see him sort of be like an evil character in the movie. And I think that played a lot of in the role of people not liking his character. But I thought Ryan Gosling did a great job. He was really funny, and I think he played the role that he was given very, very well. Because yeah, he was there to represent the patriarchy, and we were supposed to hate him for a lot of the movie. So overall, I feel like he did a really great job. I mean, really my only criticisms were more that I wish the writing for him was a little bit more complex, so that we kind of felt that like push-pull of like, do we hate him? Do we love him? Sort of like Skylar on Breaking Bad, if any of y'all ever watched Breaking Bad. But I just love a character that you hate one minute and love the next. And I thought they maybe could have explored that just a little bit more to make Ken a little bit more complex. But again, I understand that it was I cannot say that word, purposefully done to make him sort of a flat, two-dimensional, stupid character. That was the point of it. So yeah, I guess my only other criticism is I wish they hadn't put so much eyeliner on him because I kind of found it distracting. I don't know, that's like a little nitpick of mine. One casting choice that I thought was kind of weird was Michael Cera playing Alan, which I actually love Michael Cera. Like, Arrested Development is one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and I think he's brilliant and I really love him, but I just thought he was kind of a quirky choice for Alan. But I guess Alan is a quirky character, so that kind of makes sense, I guess, in some regards to choose him. But I don't know, I just thought that was kind of a weird choice. And again, I thought they didn't do a great job with the makeup on him. He looked like he just had too much makeup on his face. I thought that was kind of strange looking. But yeah, that was probably like one of the weird casting choices I felt like they made. But again, that's no shade to Michael Cera. I absolutely love him. There were a few characters that got hardly any airtime, which again, they were trying to pack a lot of stuff in this movie, but I was a little bummed that Midge was only there for like a split second to reference like pregnant Midge being, I think they said like Midge was weird and that's why they pulled her, even though I think the real story behind Midge was when they did, or like the pregnant version of Midge, I mean, that they're saying like the pregnant doll was weird. But really, I believe the reason that Midge was controversial and pulled was because like a bunch of Karens were like complaining at Walmart back in the day that the doll was pregnant but didn't have a wedding ring on her finger, which is stupid. Or maybe they were like saying she was encouraging teen pregnancy. All of that was so stupid, but that was the big controversy around Midge, which they referenced. But I feel like that was about all of the airtime that Midge got. And same with Skipper. I think they made a reference to her at one point, like when they were at the Mattel headquarters, and we saw growing up Skipper, which was really great. But I love Skipper so much, so I was a little bummed that she wasn't a bit more of a main character in the movie. I thought that would have been a really great opportunity for them, again, because millennials love Skipper, I feel like. But yeah, I wish she could have been in there a little bit more. And again, the other SNL alumni in there, Kate McKinnon and Will Ferrell, I thought they both did great jobs. They, you know, acted exactly as you would expect them to. I thought they, you know, were super funny and did a great job in their roles. I really love the fact that they had a character of the Barbie that was like totally like screwed up and bedraggled by the original owner, like the marker on the face and the cut hair. Like any Barbie collector, or I guess anybody that's ever had a Barbie doll knows like the plight of the weird Barbie. And also I thought America Ferrera was brilliant, and I think she's brilliant in everything she's in. I really, really love her. I felt like she really grounded this movie. She was the character that we all relate to, you know, where the person that had or loved Barbie when we were young, and we've kind of grown up, and you know, all of our feelings and emotions are complex now. And I think it was like a really great, you know, grounding element for the movie to have her in there. So I thought she was really great in that role, and I loved her character's presence in the movie. Because yeah, I love that they had that concept of like intertwining like the doll's emotions with their owner's emotions. Like if the owner was going through something terrible, like the doll was starting to feel it too. Like I just thought that was a really interesting concept. It kind of shows how much we project our own like stories and feelings and, you know, insecurities and stuff on the dolls that we own too. And it's, yeah, I just thought that was like a really smart concept. I mean, especially if you've ever been around kids, like they'll take their dolls and they'll show you their dolls and they'll tell you a story about the doll. They're like, oh, my little dolly was sick. I'm like, you know, it's because the kid was sick like 2 days ago, and they're like expressing like the way they experience and see the world through these dolls. So I just thought that was, yeah, again, a really smart concept for the movie. I love that they did it that way. Wouldn't it be hilarious if Mattel actually made Depression Barbie as one of the movie dolls? I mean, you know they won't, but it would be absolutely hilarious, and I totally would buy one. But yeah, there were a few sappy, like sentimental, emotional moments in this movie, and I really love them. Again, it kind of puts you on the roller coaster, and I think that's what makes a really great movie. And I just think a lot of the like really poignant parts of the movie like were what really helped make that a great movie. One of my favorite poignant moments in the movie was actually when Barbie was trying to escape the Mattel headquarters, and she ends up in this like random room, and they don't explain why or how this exists, but she ends up running into who we find out later is Ruth Handler. I just thought that was a really touching moment in the movie, especially because I feel like that was the point in the movie where you figure out who is like a hardcore Barbie collector, or like who's really, really into Barbie, or who's kind of just there because, you know, it's the movie of the summer and they just, you know, they had a Barbie or two when they were a kid. But that's the moment where, like, when she's introduced herself as Ruth, they don't really fully explain to the audience that that's Ruth Handler, the creator of Barbie. But, you know, like all of us that like are really into Barbie and know who Ruth Handler is, we were like, yeah. None of you know who this is, but I do. So yeah, I feel like that scene didn't really make a ton of sense if you didn't know that Ruth Handler was the creator of Barbie. Well, with some help. So yeah, this movie actually kind of did a thing that always kind of bugs me, and that's that, like, I don't like when politics crosses over into the doll world. And, you know, I've broken my rules a couple of times because, you know, you see something on Twitter and you get really pissed and you have to go complain about it. But for the most part, I don't like talking about politics or reading about politics in the doll world because this is my escape from reality. I don't like when all of this stuff is kind of shoehorned in. I like pretending it's 1991 again and none of this stuff matters. But, you know, again, this is a very political movie, and that's obviously okay. I'm not pissed at the movie for being political. That was the whole point of it. And again, it's a great movie. I think that it was important to talk about these things, but it's just kind of funny how I'm sitting here like, oh great, I'm thinking about politics in the doll world again. But yeah, this movie definitely makes a lot of current political references. So again, this movie was very feminist. And again, I feel like I need to be clear that I'm not complaining about this. Obviously, I'm a feminist and believe very strongly in feminist ideals, unless you're a TERF. But yeah, I feel like we were expecting this movie to be very feminist. And I feel like it's kind of weird to me when people are like, I can't believe this is a feminist movie. Like, it's the Barbie movie. Of course we're not being subtle. Like, subtlety went out the freaking window, like, in the first scene. But yeah, there are, like, a lot of conservative extremists saying things like, oh, this movie is nothing but toxic feminism, and this makes men look bad and stupid. Yeah, men are doing a great job of that all on their own. So yeah, I'm just sick of people complaining about stuff like that. If you think that the Barbie movie being feminist is bad, you are literally and figuratively a loser. I feel like Matchbox 20 got a ton of airtime in this movie, which I know it was to show like Ken being a douche or whatever, but I secretly kind of like that song. It makes me miss the 90s. I do think once the Kens turned on each other and they started that big war, it was very like visually interesting. That was again one of my favorite parts of the movie. It was again very campy and weird, and it kind of broke out into that like West Side Story dance number too, which I thought again was also, you know, kind of gay, but also like very interesting. I really liked that. And then, you know, I think there were a few references here and there of like, you know, homosexuality with Ken, you know, with, I think there was early in the movie, there was, a pun. He was saying like, oh, I'm going to beat you off. Like they were going to have a beach battle, you know, just things like that. Again, I think that the creators of this movie knew that the audience was going to be like 90% like women and gay guys. And yeah, I love that they kind of pulled Alan aside as well and sort of made him an ally to all the women, because so if any of you don't really know about Alan, he was sort of marketed as Ken's buddy, but you know, over the years, a lot of people have really kind of considered him to be like Ken's secret boyfriend. So I think that was sort of like a tongue-in-cheek nod to that. The kind of like, they didn't say it outright, but sort of like Alan, I feel like, was like the gay best friend to all the Barbies in the movie, which I kind of really love. Because, you know, the girls and the gays got to stick together to fight the patriarchy. So anyway, one of the other things that I thought was super weird that made it into the movie was when Ruth Handler kind of shows up and names herself at the end of the movie, and they made a reference to her like having like to deal with like tax fraud. I can't remember exactly what she did, but basically her issues with the IRS. I think that's like really funny that they left that in there. I'm surprised that Mattel basically gave that line the green light, but the only reason I can think they did that is maybe to distract from the fact that Barbie is like completely a stolen concept. So maybe that was like the lesser of the two crimes in their mind. But you know, Mattel is never, ever, ever going to acknowledge the existence of Build Lily. And every time I think about that, it actually makes me kind of want to sell my entire Barbie collection, because what they did was actually really up. And I actually really like the ending of the movie. I know that a lot of people are really split on that. Some people thought it was great and really touching, which I'm in that camp. I thought it was a very touching ending to the movie, but a lot of people really didn't like it, which I also understand. Like, it's very weird to take the doll that we all know and love and basically say like, okay, she hates being a doll, she wants to be a human. I don't know, I just thought that was a little bit of an interesting choice, especially considering this movie is endorsed and, you know, partially created by Mattel. So yeah, I just thought that was a bit of an interesting choice, but I liked it. I appreciated it. I thought it was kind of different. I thought that scene with her, with Ruth Handler in Purgatory, was very touching. I really love that part where she kind of like, it kind of panned out and we're seeing all the footage of like the young girls and the moms and the women. It just was, again, a very poignant point in the movie. I think it was very emotional for a lot of people. But yeah, I thought that ending was really touching, especially because I had to look at this after the fact, but I figured there was something up with that footage that they were playing with, like all the nostalgic footage and stuff, but it was clips from like home movies from the cast and crew. And I think Margot Robbie was actually in one of them, but I just thought that was a really touching part of the movie. I really liked it. But yeah, maybe this is something that went totally over my head, but I feel like they didn't entirely explain the mechanism on how Barbie just gets to choose to be human and cross over. Like, again, let me know in the comments if I missed something, but I was like, how does being a doll and getting in the car and just driving a long distance like put you in human world? I don't know. I just thought it was like a really weird thing that they didn't explain, like how you go from being a doll to being a human. I don't know. Again, maybe I was like distracted when they explained that, but I just thought that was kind of weird and unexplained. So yeah, in the end, Barbie's decided that she no longer wants to be a doll and wants to cross over into the human world, which I don't know why. It sucks here. So yeah, she's made it into the human world and is in some random office and introduces herself as Barbie Handler, which I thought was super weird because canonically Barbie's last name is Roberts. So it's kind of weird that they named her Barbie Handler in the movie, because that's actually Ruth Handler's daughter's name. If you didn't know, Barbie is actually named after Ruth Handler's daughter, Barbara. So it's kind of weird that they named the Barbie doll Barbie handler. But again, I think it's because, you know, they kind of framed Ruth Handler as sort of like a mother figure to Barbie in the movie. So maybe that's why they changed her last name. Again, I thought it was kind of a weird choice, unless I misheard them, but I'm pretty sure they made her last name Handler in the movie. But anyway, after having this like long, poignant, very touching and emotional scene, we basically get like a cheap Virginia joke in the end. I guess it was a good way to wrap up the movie. I mean, Barbie escaped the box to get a real-life box of her own. So, do I think this movie is going to be a top-tier movie like Clueless or Mean Girls? I'm not totally sure. There definitely were some non sequiturs in this movie, and if I'm perfectly honest, I might get some hate for this, but I do feel like the movie was maybe like 95% complete. I think one of the biggest things for me is I actually wish it had more memorable one-liners that are super quotable. I think that's what makes like a classic, iconic movie, is to be able to take away like a good, like 10 things that you can take from a movie and just quote all day long. You know, things like, "as if," or "makes me want a hot dog real bad." I think if it had more one-liners like that, that would have sealed its status as a timeless, iconic movie. And don't get me wrong, I thought the movie was very funny. I just didn't think it was very quotable. Because yeah, I feel like the script wasn't quite as dialed in as a movie like Mean Girls or Clueless or Legally Blonde. So if this movie isn't still wildly popular like 10, 20 years from now, I'm gonna guess that that's probably the reason why. And again, this movie does heavily touch on the current political climate, and we would all hope that a lot of the issues that were brought up in this movie aren't going to be relevant 20 years from now. God, I hope. So that can kind of make this movie a little bit more relevant now than it would be maybe in like 20 to 30 years. But we'll see. People really love this movie, and the numbers speak for themselves. People absolutely love this movie, and I have to say, I absolutely loved the movie too. But yeah, I thought it was a really great movie. I had so much fun, and I'm probably going to watch it again multiple times. But what I really want to know is, what do you think? I'm so curious to know if you were satisfied with the movie's ending and if they handled Ken's character correctly. I feel like those were two really divisive points from the movie, and I really want to know what your opinion is. So let's chat about it some more in the comments. If you haven't already seen my Barbie collection video, be sure to check it out right here. And if you've already seen it, maybe you'll like this video. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so we can see each other again. And also be sure to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/idreamofjohnny. Don't forget to check out my doll shop. The link is in the description. Thanks again for hanging out with me and chatting about the Barbie movie. This was so much fun. I hope to see you again real soon. Bye for now.